Former Admiral calls for new three-way military drills to shore up the defensive perimeter of the first island chain. Retired Philippine Rear Admiral Rommel Jude said Taiwan is at the core of the first island chain, making its participation in joint military exercises with Japan and the Philippines not an option but a necessity. Ong said the security of Taiwan, Japan, and the Philippines is inextricably linked and that it will be impossible to resist China's continued expansion into the waters that lie between them unless the three join hands and work together, according to a VOA report. Ong said he doubts the US could single-handedly resist China's expansion, therefore countries in the region must join together to ensure the integrity of the single island chain. The retired admiral called on Taiwan, Japan, and the Philippines to establish mechanisms for joint maritime military cooperation that could facilitate an integrated strategy. He said the Bashi Strait is the most critical area for the Philippines, whereas the waters around the Diaoyutai, or Senkaku, islands are vital for Japan. Taiwan is the central link that holds the first island chain together, thus its participation in joint exercises is of the utmost importance, he said. Wang Chunyan, a scholar at Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research Academy, pointed out that Japan and the Philippines have held joint military and naval exercises in the past. He said he agrees maintaining a high level of connectivity with the other two countries' security sectors is of great importance to Taiwan and that it is also conducive to the stability of Japan and the Philippines. The first island chain refers to the first chain of major archipelagos that are positioned east of the East Asian continental coast. Besides Taiwan, it includes the Kuril Islands, the Japanese archipelago, the Ryukyu Islands, the northern Philippines, and Borneo. In its entirety, it extends all the way from the Kamchatka Peninsula in the far northeast to the Malay Peninsula in the southwest. U.S. foreign policy doctrine includes two other island chains beyond the first island chain. The other two island chains are located further east, at varying degrees of longitude in the Pacific Ocean. The U.S. has begun two large-scale military exercises. The first is a joint Indo-Pacific military exercise led by the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command with the participation of Japan, Australia, and the UK. The other is the large-scale exercise 2021 held by U.S. Navy around the world and is reportedly the largest naval exercise since 1981. A U.S. military scholar told the media that it is intended to demonstrate to China and Russia that U.S. naval forces can simultaneously meet challenges in the Black Sea, Eastern Mediterranean, South China Sea, and the East China Sea. The U.S. wants to awe China and Russia by flexing its muscles in a miscalculated move. China will hold military exercises from Friday to Tuesday in a vast area in the South China Sea between Hainan and Zaisha Islands, as a response to the joint Indo-Pacific military exercise. Neither China nor Russia has the intention to compete for the command of the seas with the U.S., but both have the ability and determination to despise U.S. coercion in the areas that concern their core interests. With current modern technologies, major powers have enough capability to destroy all targets within certain distances. The U.S. Navy has built a global capability that helps sustain the loyalty of its allies. But if the U.S. engages in a real war with China and Russia, its naval strength will not be able to survive. For big powers, navies are more of a showcase of strength and resolve. A gamble-like test is needed to see their real effect in modern wars. We hope such a test would never come. From time to time, the U.S. tries to show China and Russia that it is good at fighting wars and does not fear fighting a war with both. As for China, we must prove to the U.S. and its allies that we love peace, but we are not afraid of a war with the U.S. in the Taiwan Straits and the South China Sea. We are determined and capable to fight until the end and defeated if these areas are attacked by the U.S. The U.S. is showing off its military power around the world, but China will not be swayed by this. If the U.S. deploys its military forces to the South China Sea, no matter how many warships they send, they will only be like a group of rabbits partying obliviously while China's guns aim at them. The South China Sea is an international waterway where countries enjoy the freedom of navigation. However, it is located next to Chinese islands and reefs that are part of China's core interests. China will not tolerate for a long time the U.S. playing a geopolitical card to showcase its agenda. If China's aircraft carrier strike groups constantly go in and out of the Caribbean Sea, encouraging countries there to fight against the U.S., would Washington tolerate it? It is time for the U.S. to put itself in others' shoes and understand and respect the feelings of the Chinese people. China is no longer the country it was a century ago. Since the U.S. views China as its top strategic competitor, it needs to follow the rules of the great powers game and keep a distance from China's strength. We must also let the US major allies in the Asia-Pacific region, especially Japan and Australia, know about such declaration. Their alliance with the US is formed historically, but it has never targeted China before until recently. Japan and Australia in particular must be warned that they need to keep their distance and that it is dangerous for them to provoke China by following the steps of the US. From now on, the greatest danger for Tokyo and Canberra is their own ambition and restlessness. If they are not convinced by China's rise and feel the need to help the US suppress China's growth, then they are turning themselves into enemies of Beijing and becoming a strategic front for the US to contain China. They need to take full responsibility for the consequences of such a choice. Let the US spend large amounts of money on its exercises in the Indo-Pacific region. Through its clumsy performance on epidemic prevention and disaster relief, we can see that the US is far less capable of mobilizing resources in extreme situations than most believe. China should intensively build new warships, upgrade fighter jets, produce more long-range missiles that can strike naval targets, and establish the capacity to expand the production of these weapons before and during real battles. These are China's strengths as an industrial power. China also needs to further enhance its nuclear force and consolidate its ultimate deterrence against the US. This deterrence will strengthen the expectation that the US can only engage in a war of attrition with China that it can never win.